Warning: this video contains the use of hand and power tools, and the unskilled or improper use thereof could cause serious injury and even death. Please consult our website at mackiediy.co.za for video and informational disclaimer. Mackie, hardware you can trust.
Today we'll be demonstrating the installation of a Mortice Lockset. A Mortice Lockset is defined by a product which will have a pair of handles and also a mortise lock insert. This is the part that is inserted into the mortise section of the door. Mackie Locksets come in 2, 3 and 4 lever and also various grades of Lockset with various grades of handles. Always be careful to look at the point of sale to determine which grade best suits your needs. To install these Mortice Locksets today, the tools we'll be needing: 1, a tape measure; 2, a square; 3, a 14mm spade bit; 4, a builder's pencil; 5, a 13mm wood chisel. Note the chisel blade protector on the front to ensure we don't get injured; a light claw hammer; and a electric drill. For the purpose of the exercise, I've installed a door as it would be in situ. One would normally only install a Mortice Lockset into the door once the door was hung, i.e. connected to the pair of hinges that would essentially hold it to the door frame. It is also critically, before installing the lock onto the door, to measure the height of the strike, which is measured, the tape measure from the floor. As we can see, the bottom of this strike is 97 centimeters or 970 millimeters. Right, most manufacturers of timber doors will indicate where the lock needs to be installed. They provide a piece of timber, especially in a hollow core door such as this one, large enough to actually accommodate the mortise lock insert. So we measure the height from the floor, our 97 centimeters or 970 millimeters from the floor, and we mark it off as is done there. We then take our Mortice Lockset, we take out the mortise insert. We'll put the mortise insert up against the door like that, assuring that that is lined up. We'll make a mark at the bottom there, and we'll make a mark at the top there. This will determine the distance that we mortise out of the door for the lock body. We then take our square and we mark off the center of the door, which in this case, this door is a 38mm. The center will then obviously be 19mm. Once we've marked that off, we can draw a line connecting the points. Very critical to keep this level, as this will determine the accuracy or the correctness of the installation of the lock. And there you can see it's in the center of the door. Right. We will tape off our 14mm spade bit, bearing in mind that the point will protrude into the timber. It machines the timber up to there, so therefore we'll put that up against the forend and we'll tape off our spade bit, leaving some space at the back. The spade bit being 14mm, we will then mark off at 15mm intervals approximately these centers to be drilled for our mortise lock body. When drilling, one needs to be careful to drill straight. When drilling, one needs to ensure one drills straight into the timber, that the drill is in fact on a level plane horizontally and also a level plane going into the timber. If we drilled at an angle like this, the bit would pop out the door that side, obviously at an angle like that, or up or down would be creating an aperture much larger than the one we would like to have. Always be sure to wear the correct protective gear for the power tools being used. Once we have drilled all the holes, we then commence cleaning up the holes to make room for the insert. Once we've cleaned up the aperture as best we can, we then take our 13mm chisel and we just clean up the edges neatly to allow for the correct fitting of the lock. Right, and we clean out the aperture whilst always fitting the lock to see whether or not it fits properly and without having to be forced into the door. That's pretty much a tight fit. Then, to mark off where we'll put the drill for the handles, we'll put the lock body lining the top up with the very top line. We'll put the lock body next to the door and we'll simply make a mark for the handle and we'll make a mark for the keyway. The other thing we'll do is we'll put the lock back into the door, as the fore end of the lock has to be recessed into the door for a nice flush fit. All we do is we trace around the actual fore end, and while we're there we mark off the fixing holes. Either colour it in or just make a dot right in the centre of the hole, whichever suits you. We then remove the lock, and now we have the exact area that we have to open up or mortise, but only as deep as the fore end. So we're literally going in 2mm in this instance. We take our chisel and notice the chisel has a sloped side and a flat side. We'll always put the flat side up against the outside of the line. On the line, and we'll chisel it in to the 2mm depth we need. This process will be repeated all the way around the edge. Right, once we've chiseled around the edge, and we do this so that when we're removing some of the material we don't damage the rest of the door. This is why we chisel into the door. What I'm going to do, just to give a better perspective on what is happening here when I clean the material out, I'm just going to spray some paint on the door to give you a perspective of the timber being removed. And as you can see, having cleared it, makes removing the pieces very, very easy. Right, and once we've cleaned out the aperture for the fore-end, we put our lock back in, and there we go, nice flush fit, and as you can see, the lock nice and straight. Right, to drill the aperture for the handles, we take the drill, we do the same for the keyhole. Once the handle aperture and the keyhole apertures have been drilled and widened sufficiently, one simply inserts the lock body again. We take the spindle, put the spindle in, take our pair of handles, ensure that the handle is level. Take the other pair, put them on the other side. If you would like, you could measure a distance from the front of the door to there, the distance to there, if you're really particular. Got our handle apertures marked there, handle fixing holes marked here. Once you've marked off all the holes, I'm always in favor of drilling a pilot hole. For the fixing screws. Pilot holes, depending on the timber, I would never exceed a third of the size of the screw for a pilot hole. In very soft timber, I might go to as much as 2/3 in hard timber. All our pilot holes drilled. And then it's simply a question of tightening up the screws on the handles. Right, with all the fixing screws and for the handle and the lock affixed to the door, all that's left is checking that the mortise lock works correctly. And I would check it from both sides just to ensure. Correct operation. One doesn't want to end up locking the door and find that something has gone wrong with the installation and the